Book 1, Chapter 4, Part 2 of Armadale. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Winterowd. Armadale by Wilkie Collins. Chapter 4, Part 2. After an instant's hesitation, Midwinter took a step nearer. "I have been thinking of your future and mine," he said. "I have been thinking of the time when your way in life and my way in life will be two ways instead of one." "Here's the daybreak!" cried Allan. "Look up at the masts. They're beginning to get clear again already. I beg your pardon. What were you saying?" Midwinter made no reply. The struggle between the hereditary superstition that was driving him on and the unconquerable affection for Allan that was holding him back suspended the next words on his lips. He turned aside his face in speechless suffering. "Oh, my father!" he thought. "Better have killed me on that day when I lay on your bosom than have let me live for this." "What's that about the future?" persisted Allan. "I was looking for the daylight. I didn't hear." Midwinter controlled himself and answered. "You have treated me with your usual kindness," he said, "in planning to take me with you to Thorpe Ambrose. I think, on reflection, I had better not intrude myself where I am not known and not expected." His voice faltered, and he stopped again. The more he shrank from it, the clearer the picture of the happy life that he was resigning rose on his mind. Allan's thoughts instantly reverted to the mystification about the new steward which he had practiced on his friend when they were consulting together in the cabin of the yacht. "Has he been turning it over in his mind?" wondered Allan. "And is he beginning at last to suspect the truth? I'll try him." "Talk as much nonsense, my dear fellow, as you like," he rejoined. "But don't forget you are engaged to see me established at Thorpe Ambrose, and to give me your opinion of the new steward." Midwinter suddenly stepped forward again, close to Allan. "I am not talking about your steward or your estate," he burst out passionately. "I am talking about myself. Do you hear? Myself. I am not a fit companion for you. You don't know who I am." He drew back into the shadowy shelter of the bulwark as suddenly as he had come out of it. "Oh, God! I can't tell him," he said to himself in a whisper. For a moment, and for a moment only, Allan was surprised. "Not know who you are?" Even as he repeated the words, his easy good humor got the upper hand again. He took up the whiskey flask and shook it significantly. "I say," he resumed, "how much of the doctor's medicine did you take while I was up in the mizzen-top?" The light tone which he persisted in adopting stung Midwinter to the last pitch of exasperation. He came out again into the light, and stamped his foot angrily on the deck. "Listen to me," he said. "You don't know half the low things I've done in my lifetime. I've been a tradesman's drudge. I have swept out the shop and put up the shutters. I have carried parcels through the streets, and waited for my master's money at his customers' doors." "I have never done anything half as useful," returned Allan, composedly. "Dear old boy, what an industrious fellow you have been in your time!" "I've been a vagabond and a blackguard in my time," returned the other, fiercely. "I've been a street tumbler, a tramp, a gypsy's boy. I've sung for halfpence with dancing dogs on the high road. I've worn a footboy's livery and waited at table. I've been a common sailor's cook and a starving fisherman's jack of all trades. What has a gentleman in your position in common with a man in mine? Can you take me into the society at Thorpe Ambrose? Why, my very name would be a reproach to you. Fancy the faces of your new neighbors when their footmen announce Ozias Midwinter and Allan Armadale in the same breath." He burst into a harsh laugh, and repeated the two names again, with a scornful bitterness of emphasis which insisted pitilessly on the marked contrast between them. Something in the sound of his laughter jarred painfully even on Allan's easy nature. He raised himself on the deck, and spoke seriously for the first time. "A joke's a joke, Midwinter," he said, "as long as you don't carry it too far. I remember your saying something of the same sort to me once before when I was nursing you in Somersetshire. You forced me to ask you if I deserved to be kept at arm's length by you of all people in the world. Don't force me to say so again. Make as much fun of me as you please, old fellow, in any other way. That way hurts me." Simple as the words were, and simply as they had been spoken, they appeared to work an instant revolution in Midwinter's mind. His impressible nature recoiled as from some sudden shock. Without a word of reply, he walked away by himself to the forward part of the ship. He sat down on some piled planks between the masts, and passed his hand over his head in a vacant and bewildered way. Though his father's belief in fatality was his own belief once more, though there was no longer the shadow of a doubt in his mind that the woman whom Mr. Brock had met in Somersetshire, and the woman who had tried to destroy herself in London, were one and the same, though all the horror that mastered him when he first had read the letter from Wildbad had now mastered him again, Allan's appeal to their past experience of each other had come home to his heart, with a force more irresistible than the force of his superstition itself. In the strength of that very superstition he now sought a pretext which might encourage him to sacrifice every less generous feeling to the one predominant dread of wounding the sympathies of his friend. "Why distress him?" he whispered to himself. "We are not the end here. There is the woman behind us in the dark. Why resist him when the mischief's done, and the caution comes too late? What is to be will be. What have I to do with the future, and what has he?" He went back to Allan, sat down by his side, and took his hand. "Forgive me," he said, gently. "I have hurt you for the last time." Before it was possible to reply, he snatched up the whiskey flask from the deck. "Come," he exclaimed, with a sudden effort to match his friend's cheerfulness. "You have been trying the doctor's medicine. Why shouldn't I?" Allan was delighted. "This is something like a change for the better," he said. "Midwinter is himself again. Hark! There are the birds. Hail, smiling morn, smiling morn!" He sang the words of the glee in his old cheerful voice, and clapped Midwinter on the shoulder in his old hearty way. "How did you manage to clear your mind of those confounded megrims? Do you know you were quite alarming about something happening to one or other of us before we were out of this ship?" "Sheer nonsense," returned Midwinter, contemptuously. "I don't think my head has ever been quite right since that fever. I've got a bee in my bonnet, as they say in the North. Let's talk of something else. About those people you have let the cottage to. I wonder whether the agent's account of Major Milroy's family is to be depended on. There might be another lady in the household besides his wife and his daughter." "Oho!" cried Allan. "You're beginning to think of nymphs among the trees, and flirtations in the fruit garden, are you? Another lady, eh? Suppose the major's family circle won't supply another? We shall have to spend that half-crown again, and toss up for which is to have the first chance with Miss Milroy." For once Midwinter spoke as lightly and carelessly as Allan himself. "No, no," he said. "The major's landlord has the first claim to the notice of the major's daughter. I'll retire into the background, and wait for the next lady who makes her appearance at Thorpe Ambrose." "Very good. I'll have an address to the woman of Norfolk posted in the park to that effect," said Allan. "Are you particular to a shade about size or complexion? What's your favorite age?" Midwinter trifled with his own superstition, as a man trifles with the loaded gun that may kill him, or with the savage animal that may maim him for life. He mentioned the age, as he reckoned it himself, of the woman in the black gown and the red Paisley shawl. "35, he said. As the words passed his lips, his factitious spirits deserted him. He left his seat, impenetrably deaf to all Allan's efforts to rally him on his extraordinary answer, and resumed his restless pacing of the deck in dead silence. Once more the haunting thought which had gone to and fro with him in the hour of darkness went to and fro with him now in the hour of daylight. Once more the conviction possessed itself of his mind that something was to happen or to Allan or to himself before they left the wreck. Minute by minute the light strengthened in the eastern sky, and the shadowy places on the deck of the timber-ship revealed their barren emptiness under the eye of day. As the breeze rose again, the sea began to murmur wakefully in the morning light. Even the cold bubbling of the broken water changed its cheerless note, and softened on the ear as the mellowing flood of daylight poured warm over it from the rising sun. Midwinter paused near the forward part of the ship, and recalled his wandering attention to the passing time.